The moment you awaken, you stop belonging to the world you once understood. You begin to see through everything, the lies, the noise, the endless chase for validation, and for the first time you realize how asleep everyone still is. But that awareness, that piercing clarity, comes with a cost, because once you wake up, you can't go back. You start to crave silence in a world that never stops talking. You seek truth in a society addicted to illusion. You want depth, but all you find are people drowning in the shallow. It's not that you're broken. It's that you've outgrown the game everyone else is still playing. The spiritually awake walk through modern life like ghosts, here but not here, watching, understanding, detached. They don't fit in the system because they see it too clearly. In this video, we'll explore 5 reasons why awakened individuals struggle in the modern world, not because they are weak, but because they are awake in a place built for the sleeping. The truth isn't easy to carry, but once you see the illusion for what it is, survival becomes an art of awareness. 1. The noise of the world versus the silence within. The spiritually awakened are not at war with others. They are at war with noise, not the kind you can hear, but the kind that fills the modern world. The endless scrolling, the flashing screens, the hollow conversations, the artificial emotions sold through pixels. It's a storm of stimulation designed to drown silence, because silence is where truth speaks. The awakened crave depth, but they live in a culture built to keep them shallow. Every part of modern life pulls their attention outward. Notifications, trends, gossip, algorithms. Each one screaming, "Look here, think this, feel that." It's all noise, relentless, clever, and intoxicating. And the more awakened you become, the more unbearable it feels. Because the moment you wake up, you begin to feel the weight of every distraction. You sense how much energy people waste performing instead of living. You watch them seek purpose in the approval of strangers, and you can't unsee the emptiness behind it. You see how silence terrifies them, how the world is afraid to be alone with itself. That's when the internal war begins. The noise demands attention. The silence demands surrender. The awakened start withdrawing, not because they're antisocial, but because they can't breathe in a world built on noise. They no longer find pleasure in meaningless chatter or digital chaos. Their spirit longs for stillness, for quiet mornings, honest solitude, deep conversations that mean something. But the modern world doesn't reward stillness. It punishes it. Society tells you that success means movement, always producing, always posting, always proving. But the awakened see through it. They understand that motion without purpose is just glorified escape. And so they stop running. They stop chasing. They sit in silence, and that silence becomes revolutionary. Yet, that silence also makes them misunderstood. To the unawakened, silence looks like withdrawal. To the insecure, it looks like arrogance. To the fearful, it feels like rejection. So they label the awakened as distant or cold. But in truth, they're just listening not to others, but to what's real. The awakened realize that peace doesn't come from adding more, but from removing what doesn't belong. They stop responding to every noise. They stop reacting to every emotion. They stop explaining themselves to those committed to misunderstanding. Because once you taste silence, noise becomes poison. But this clarity comes with a price. The modern world thrives on overstimulation, and silence threatens its control. When you stop consuming noise, you become uncontrollable. You stop chasing trends, so marketing loses power over you. You stop reacting emotionally, so manipulation no longer works. You stop needing validation, so systems built on attention begin to collapse around you. That's why the awakened struggle, because silence in a world addicted to distraction is rebellion. Silence changes you. It sharpens your perception. You begin to hear what others ignore, the dishonesty in their tone, the fear behind their words, the emptiness in their laughter. You begin to see what they don't, how the world confuses attention for love, chaos for excitement, and consumption for happiness. And while others drown in the noise, you learn to breathe in the quiet. But it's lonely there, not because silence is empty, but because few are willing to enter it. Most people fear what they'll find in stillness, their own reflection. The awakened learn that silence isn't absence, it's awareness. It's the space where wisdom whispers and truth unfolds. It's where the spirit detoxes from the world's lies. And the deeper you go into silence, the less you can tolerate the artificial. So the awakened live differently. They move slowly, speak deliberately. They listen more than they talk. Their peace unnerves people who haven't found theirs yet. Their calm feels foreign in a world built on noise. But that calm is not weakness. It's power. The awakened understand that silence is not a void, it's a weapon. It cuts through confusion. It reveals motives. It disarms manipulation. The noise of the world is constant, but so is the stillness within you. And while most people let the noise define them, the awakened use silence to remember who they are. So if you find yourself withdrawing, if chaos drains you and quiet feels like home, don't mistake that for isolation. It's transformation. The deeper your silence, the stronger your spirit. Because in a world that worships noise, silence isn't absence. It's evolution. 2. The collapse of false desires. When awakening begins, one of the first things to die is desire. Not the sacred desire for truth or purpose, but the false desires that were never yours to begin with. The ones the world planted in you. The ones that kept you chasing endlessly without ever arriving. You start to see it everywhere, in the ads, the conversations, the ambitions of those around you. People chasing money not for freedom, but for approval. People seeking love not to give, but to fill the void of self-ignorance. People performing confidence, posting happiness, buying identity. And you realize something brutal. Almost everything you were taught to want was never about you. Awakening dissolves these cravings one by one. The desire for attention fades first. You no longer crave eyes on you because you finally have your own. Then comfort starts to lose its appeal. You understand that real growth comes through tension, not ease. The hunger for status, validation, and recognition starts to rot inside you because truth makes them taste like ash. And that's when the struggle begins, because the modern world is built on those exact cravings. Everything around you is engineered to feed the unawakened appetite. More possessions, more distraction, more applause. Society runs on dissatisfaction, on keeping you chasing what you'll never catch. The economy thrives on your emptiness. Social hierarchies survive through your insecurity. Culture worships illusion because it keeps the machine alive. So when you stop craving what everyone else worships, you become dangerous. Not because you rebel outwardly, but because you no longer participate. You're not driven by what drives them. You don't respond to the same manipulation. You stop buying the illusion. You stop needing the performance. And that's when you begin to feel out of place. You watch people chase what you've already outgrown, and you can't join them, even if you try. The conversations that once excited you now feel hollow. The goals that once motivated you now feel meaningless. You're no longer running after pleasure or praise. You're seeking peace, clarity, alignment. But those are invisible currencies in a world that worships gold. The awakened struggle here because they start to live by inner truth in a world obsessed with outer approval. They can't fake desire anymore. They can't pretend to care about what everyone else calls success. And when they stop pretending, the world starts to notice. Friends pull away. Society labels them unambitious, cold, detached. But it's not detachment. It's liberation. The collapse of false desires strips you bare. It removes every illusion that made you feel safe. You lose your appetite for the world's pleasures before you've built your connection to higher joy, and that in-between phase feels like exile. You're no longer of the old world, but you haven't yet settled into the new. It's a painful purification. The ego resists it with everything it has. It tries to recreate its identity through new cravings, spiritual status, moral superiority, holier achievements. But the awakened see through that too. They realize even those are traps. The real awakening happens when you desire nothing, when your motivation no longer comes from lack. You stop wanting to have and start wanting to be, not to be admired, but to be aligned, not to be seen, but to see clearly. When false desires collapse, your energy returns to you. The attention you once gave to chasing now flows inward, rebuilding what was forgotten. You begin to experience fulfillment that doesn't depend on anything external. It's quiet, unflashy, but absolute. Yet this peace makes you incompatible with a world addicted to craving. You become uninterested in drama, immune to manipulation, and unresponsive to emotional bait. That serenity confuses people because they mistake passion for purpose and silence for emptiness. But here's the truth. False desire creates motion. True awakening creates stillness. And stillness terrifies the unawakened because it reveals the meaninglessness of their chase. So the awakened are left walking alone for a while, detached not by choice, but by clarity. They've seen behind the curtain, and there's no way back. But eventually the emptiness turns into power. Without false desire, you're no longer a slave to the system. You become a master of your energy. You move deliberately, not desperately. You build from alignment, not anxiety. You live for truth, not applause. And that's the paradox. When you stop chasing, everything real begins to find you. The collapse of false desires isn't the end of fulfillment. It's the beginning of freedom. Because once you no longer want what they sell, they can't own you. 3. The loneliness of awareness. When awareness awakens, it feels like stepping out of a crowded dream. You look around and realize everyone is still asleep, moving, speaking, chasing, but never truly awake. You try to shake them gently, to show them what you now see, but they smile absently and continue dreaming. That's when it hits you. Awakening doesn't unite you with the world. It separates you from it. You can't unsee truth. You can't unknow illusion. You can't pretend to care about the things that used to excite you. The gossip, the noise, the competitions. It all feels artificial now. You hear the emptiness in conversations. You feel the performance in people's smiles. You sense the pain they hide behind a distraction, and it breaks you quietly inside. Awareness is clarity, but clarity isolates. The more awake you become, the fewer people can meet you where you are. Not because they're bad, but because they're not ready. You speak a different language now. Silence, energy, intention. You operate from depth in a world that thrives on surfaces. And the deeper you go, the smaller your circle becomes. At first, this loneliness feels unbearable. You long for someone who understands, someone who sees the way you do. But that longing itself becomes another layer of attachment. Eventually, you realize awareness doesn't bless you with company. It blesses you with truth. And truth rarely travels in crowds. The awakened walk a narrow path. It's not glamorous and it's not loud. It's the path of self-confrontation, where you meet your shadows without flinching, and your own silence becomes your teacher. Most people avoid that path because it requires losing everything false, identities, relationships, illusions. But you no longer have a choice. Once your eyes are open, you can't go back to sleep. You begin to notice that the loneliness of awareness isn't just physical, it's energetic. You walk into rooms and feel drained. You sense the weight of unspoken tension, the collective anxiety, the false smiles. You feel emotions that aren't yours, and at first, it confuses you. Then you realize awareness doesn't just expand perception, it expands sensitivity. You don't just see truth, you feel it in everything. And because of that, you withdraw, not out of bitterness, but necessity. You begin to crave solitude like oxygen. Silence becomes your only safe space, not because the world is evil, but because it's noisy. Your system rejects chaos. Your soul demands simplicity. But here's the paradox. The more comfortable you become with solitude, the more the world misunderstands you. They call it coldness, detachment, arrogance. They say you've changed. And they're right, you have. You've changed in ways they can't measure. You've traded noise for clarity, drama for peace, illusion for awareness. They don't recognize you anymore because you stopped playing your old role in their story. That's the price of awakening. To lose the crowd, but find yourself. To walk alone, but never feel lost. In solitude, something profound happens. The loneliness begins to transform. The silence that once felt heavy starts to feel holy. You begin to sense a presence in the stillness, your higher self, your essence, the eternal part of you that never needed company to begin with. That's when the pain of separation turns into the peace of connection. You realize you were never meant to belong to the world. You were meant to see it, love it, and transcend it. You were meant to walk among people, but not be ruled by them. You were meant to move quietly, observe deeply, and act from truth, even if it means walking alone. And so you begin to wear solitude like armor, not to shut people out, but to protect your energy. You no longer seek company for comfort. You seek alignment for resonance. You stop chasing attention because presence feels richer. You stop explaining your choices because peace needs no justification. The loneliness of awareness doesn't end when you find others like you. It ends when you realize that oneness isn't about being surrounded. It's about being complete within yourself. The awakened don't fear solitude. They honor it. They understand that isolation is not exile. It's initiation. The silence you walk through now isn't emptiness. It's refinement. It's life carving away the unnecessary until only truth remains. So if you find yourself walking alone, don't mourn the distance. You're not losing the world, you're gaining clarity. You're not being punished, you're being purified. And one day, when another awakened soul crosses your path, they won't need words to recognize you. They'll see it in your eyes, the stillness of someone who has walked through loneliness and found themselves on the other side. 4. The conflict between energy and obligation. When awakening begins, something profound happens. Your energy starts telling the truth even when your mouth won't. You can no longer fake enthusiasm, pretend to care, or participate in what drains you. Your spirit begins rejecting inauthenticity the way the body rejects poison. Modern life, however, is built entirely on pretending. We're trained from childhood to perform, to smile when we're dying inside, to agree when we disagree, to show up even when every part of us is screaming no. Society calls it responsibility. But to the awakened, it feels like betrayal. Because once awareness enters the body, it becomes impossible to live out of alignment. Your energy becomes intelligent. It starts responding to truth and rejecting illusion. You feel exhaustion around people who lie, tension in environments that lack integrity, resistance toward anything that doesn't honor your spirit. You don't even choose to withdraw. Your system does it for you. It's like your soul refuses to participate in what's fake. This creates a deep conflict between energy and obligation. The world demands you keep playing the game. Be productive, be social, be agreeable. But your inner world demands truth. And the more awake you become, the more unbearable the game feels. You start noticing how much of modern life is powered by pretense. How most conversations are small talk meant to fill silence. How workplaces reward compliance over consciousness. How relationships thrive on emotional performance rather than authenticity. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, and your spirit starts rebelling. At first, it feels like fatigue. You can't tolerate environments you once tolerated. The noise, the gossip, the politics, it all drains you instantly. You stop trying to fit in, not because you've become arrogant, but because your energy refuses to dim itself to match the room. You've outgrown the vibration of pretending. But this awakening also comes with guilt. You were conditioned to equate busyness with worth. So when your energy pulls you away from the system, you start questioning yourself. Am I lazy? Am I avoiding responsibility? Am I becoming too detached? No, you're simply realigning. You're detoxing from the artificial rhythm of a world that runs on exhaustion. You're remembering what natural flow feels like. Presence instead of pressure, purpose instead of performance. The awakened learn that productivity means nothing without alignment. They understand that showing up energetically honest is worth more than showing up consistently fake. They realize that saying no can be the highest act of spiritual integrity. But modern life doesn't celebrate this truth. It punishes it. When you stop pretending, people take it personally. They'll say you've changed, become distant, unmotivated. They'll interpret your silence as arrogance, your boundaries as rejection. They can't understand that your refusal to perform isn't rebellion, it's evolution. You've stopped betraying your energy for approval. You no longer smile to survive. You no longer chase connection through self-abandonment. You're learning that peace costs relationships, that authenticity costs comfort, and that alignment costs acceptance. But it's worth every loss. Because once you taste authenticity, the fake becomes intolerable. Once you've lived in truth, you can't go back to performance. Your body becomes your compass. It contracts around dishonesty and expands around integrity. It vibrates higher in solitude than in rooms full of noise. You stop forcing connections and start honoring resonance. You stop obeying routines that suffocate your energy and begin creating rhythms that sustain it. This shift transforms everything. You may leave jobs, relationships, or communities that no longer match your frequency. You'll grieve the version of you that once tried so hard to please. But beneath that grief is freedom, the freedom to finally live as you are, not as you're expected to be. The world will call it selfishness, but it's actually self-respect. You've realized that every yes to something false is a no to your truth. And so you begin living differently, quietly, deliberately, energetically clean. You work when inspired, rest when needed, speak only when it's real. You no longer move from obligation, you move from alignment. That's why your life starts feeling lighter. That's why peace begins to replace pressure. To be awake in a world of performance is to constantly choose between peace and approval. The awakened choose peace, even if it means being misunderstood. Because once your energy remembers its truth, you can no longer betray it for the sake of belonging. And that's the real conflict of awakening. You stop living for the world and start living for what's real inside you. 5. The burden of seeing too much. Awareness is both liberation and punishment. It frees you from illusion, but in doing so, it exposes you to truths most people will never face. The spiritually awakened live with a vision that can't be turned off. They see behind the curtain, the motives behind words, the manipulation behind kindness, the emptiness behind glamour. And once you see, you can never unsee. At first, this feels empowering. You feel alive, alert, awake. You see patterns in people, systems, and energy that were invisible before. You understand how the world really works, how fear keeps people obedient, how pleasure keeps them distracted, and how noise keeps them blind. But over time, this awareness becomes heavy, because you start to realize almost everything you see is an illusion built on pain, control, and unconsciousness. You see how media engineers emotion to keep people divided. You see how politics feeds on outrage, not truth. You see how relationships are often built on need, not love. You see how even spirituality becomes performance, how people chase light to avoid their own darkness. And though you try to stay grounded, the weight of clarity can feel suffocating. The more you see, the less you can participate. You can't laugh at ignorance anymore. You can't feed into drama. You can't pretend to be entertained by what feels empty. It all feels artificial, and you feel alien because of it. The awakened begin to withdraw, not out of superiority, but out of exhaustion. They move through society quietly, watching people fight over illusions like scraps, attention, validation, identity. They see the world's chaos for what it is, a collective sleepwalk, and that knowledge isolates them. There's a loneliness that comes with clear vision, because when you try to explain what you see, most people look at you like you're crazy. You realize they don't want truth, they want comfort. They don't want to wake up, they want reassurance that the dream is still real. So you stop trying. You stop arguing, warning, convincing. You accept that awareness cannot be taught. It must be triggered. And in that silence, you carry the burden quietly. You smile gently at those still asleep, not with judgment, but compassion. Because you remember when you were like them, innocent, distracted, unbroken by truth. Yet sometimes you envy them, the simplicity of ignorance, the comfort of belonging, the illusion of certainty. You miss it, but you can't return to it. Awakening burns the bridge to sleep. Once you've seen reality unfiltered, comfort tastes like poison. You can't unknow how controlled the world is. You can't unfeel how disconnected most people are. You can't unsee how much fear governs humanity's choices. That's the curse of vision. Awareness costs peace. But over time, that pain turns to purpose. You begin to understand that you weren't meant to fix the illusion. You were meant to see through it, to exist in the chaos without being consumed by it, to walk among the blind, not to wake them all, but to remain the reminder that freedom exists. The burden becomes a kind of sacred responsibility. You hold awareness the way a warrior holds a blade, not to attack, but to protect. You learn restraint, to see lies and not call them out, to witness hypocrisy and not react. Because true mastery isn't in exposure, it's in composure. The awakened realize that awareness isn't meant to make life easier. It's meant to make it real. And reality is sharp, heavy, unfiltered. But it's also where beauty begins to mean something again. When you see through illusion, you begin to appreciate truth, even the painful kind. You notice the small, pure things, honest laughter, quiet mornings, unspoken understanding. You stop craving spectacle and start revering simplicity. Seeing too much becomes lighter when you stop resisting it. You stop wishing you could unsee. You stop resenting the depth. You begin to honor it. You accept the awakened carry more perception, more empathy, more truth, because they were chosen to. And that burden slowly transforms into grace. Because while others react, you observe. While others chase, you discern. While others fear, you understand. You realize that the pain of awareness isn't punishment. It's initiation. It's life trusting you with vision sharp enough to pierce illusion and still choose love. So yes, awareness will break you. It will isolate you. It will make you ache for the comfort of blindness, but it will also make you powerful beyond measure. Because when you see everything clearly and remain kind anyway, you've mastered both the light and the dark. Spiritual awakening is not a gentle journey, it's a dismantling. You lose illusions, attachments, and identities one by one until only truth remains. You see too deeply, feel too strongly, and walk too quietly for a world built on noise and deception. But that's not a curse, it's evolution. The awakened don't escape the world. They see it clearly and learn to move through it with grace. They learn that silence is strength, that detachment is protection, and that peace is not found in ignorance. It's forged in awareness. You may feel misunderstood. You may walk alone. But understand this, solitude isn't your punishment, it's your initiation. The world rejects what it can't define, and it cannot define what it no longer controls. You're not here to fit in. You are here to see, to embody, and to remind others that something real still exists beneath the illusion. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to join the Guru Clan, a community of awakened warriors walking the path of truth, discipline, and self-mastery. And in the comments, share what part of awakening has tested you the most. Because even in silence, the awakened always recognize each other.